And Federico feeling very comfortable with his Pokemon already locked in.
The two Pokemon to keep an eye on in this matchup are the two Steel-type Ultra Beasts. Even though neither of them are going to want to match up against the opposing Charizard much, they're great against almost all of the supporting cast. So yeah, it's going to be integral for these players, assuming they risk selecting their Steel-type Pokemon to keep them safe and start picking up knockouts on the Pokemon that maybe Charizard isn't as strong against.
All right, well, here we go. Game 1 of the top 16 play-in match. Best of 3 set, game 1 here. A win in game 1 can be incredibly important for maintaining momentum, especially since these players probably have all of the information they already need. Nihilego and Landorus Therian form are the leads for Javier. Intimidate already going to catch out that Kartana on Federico's side, but Tapu Lele very happy to be paired off against Pokemon like Nihilego.
Yeah, not a bad start for Tapu Lele. Has to be careful a little bit depending on what items and moves the Landorus and Nihilego know. Doesn't really want to take a poison type attack from Nihilego or a Z moves from Landorus, but a lot of potential damage being threatened in both directions. Also, again, to what we talked about earlier, there's two Pokemon out on Federico's side that are very bad against Celesteela, so wouldn't be too surprised if we see that quickly if Javier did choose to bring it to this battle.
Yeah, and also a lot of offensive pressure on the field already, like you sort of previewed in our pregame analysis. Lots of heavy hitters here. There are no support Pokemon on the field.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of attacks going out. Some of these grindy games we've seen going to the end of round time, I wouldn't expect to see that happen here.
All right, both players trying to figure out this turn 1 can be incredibly important. Tapu Lele actually moving first. No protects, no switches, just a KO, not a KO, a Focus Sash on the Nihilego. So we'll be able to drink that down to 1, but Federico knew it was coming, doubled up with the Leaf Blade. Critical hit for 1 hit point. Going to go ahead and knock out the Nihilego, and actually the Focus Sash kind of backfiring there as it gives Kartana a Beast Boost, able to boost its attack 1 stage and negate that Intimidate. Landorus will be using U-turn so it can switch out for a better matchup against these two Pokemon, but Nihilego went down for absolutely free there.
Yeah, probably not the turn 1 that Javier was looking for, especially because it turns out he does have that Celesteela in the back. I mean, I'm sure both players kind of a pretty good idea what the specifics of their opponent's teams are like, so likely more of a mind game than a mistake there, just kind of expecting, oh, like, he knows I have a choice scarf and I should protect here, so I'm going to risk doing it, but risk not paying off that time.
Yeah, high risk, high reward, and the inverse, high risk, and then you fail and you lose your first Pokemon on turn 1 of the play-in match for the top 16 bracket.
Yeah, whoops. On the plus side, if Javier didn't know much about Federico's team, Tapu Lele moving before Kartana, not something that you typically see, so an easy tell toward Tapu Lele's item. Only going to have to worry about Psychic incoming here, but there aren't a whole lot of options that resist Psychic-type attacks in Javier's team, so other than Celesteela, there's not a whole lot doing. At least with that Steel-type Celesteela out, or the Flying-type Celesteela, it's a free Earthquake if he wants it, but with Landorus coming in, that's not going to be very effective if he chose to do it.
Yeah, double Landorus on the field. Federico bringing out his own, getting the Intimidate off onto Celesteela and Javier's own Landorus, which does choose to protect this turn. Of course, we have seen a lot of special Landorus in the past, so an Intimidate onto Landorus is not necessarily as useful as it once was. Kartana choosing to use this turn just to set up a Tailwind, but is going to take a Flamethrower from the Celesteela in return. Javier picking up that KO this time around, showing the Flamethrower on Celesteela and getting a Beast Boost of its own on the special defense.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that special defense. Not necessarily enough to want to duke it out with this incoming Charizard. I don't know if 1 level is all it needs, but it does help out. And the Tailwind that Kartana gets off is a big deal. Now, even though both sides just lost an Ultra Beast kind of for nothing, Tailwind is a huge difference in this matchup. Not only does it allow the Landorus and Federico side to move before the Pokemon on Javier's side, perhaps get a flinch with Rock Slide, but helps protect Charizard, doesn't want to take a rock-type attack from that Landorus, potentially now able to act first and fire off some powerful Fire-type attacks.
Yeah, should Federico decide to Mega Evolve his Charizard, he will. Going to go ahead and set the Sun out. Javier may still have that Venusaur in the back, or just his own Charizard to take advantage of the Sun as well. But Federico, having the Charizard out first, will get to set the stage create the momentum for himself. Javier showing wide guard on Celesteela as well, trying to block a Heat Wave or a Rock Slide, gets the Rock Slide. Will it get both moves? Will it also get a Heat Wave coming out from the Charizard? It gets both moves. Heat Wave and Rock Slide blocked by that wide guard from Celesteela. And Celesteela already putting in a lot of work. Federico tried to protect that Charizard from Rock Slides by setting up the Tailwind, but still takes one from Javier's Landorus.
So I suddenly like the odds that they don't know each other's teams that well. I gotta imagine that Federico probably wouldn't fire the double spread move if he knew wide guard was there. However, the damage going the other direction is, even though that was a great play, is kind of a little underwhelming. Gonna take 3 Rock Slides to knock out that Charizard, which it's asking a lot. It could happen, but Javier's got to be careful. He doesn't have a lot of fire resist left on his team with that Neil getting knocked out so easily, so still in a tricky position.
Yeah, and Federico has to switch in the sort of glass cannon Tapu Lele here. Javier just goes for another wide guard to protect against a Heat Wave or another Rock Slide, but Charizard showing it has a single target attack as well, goes for the sun-boosted Flamethrower into Celesteela. With that Beast Boost, able to hang on in perfect hit points to activate its berry, heal all the way back up 50% of its health, while Javier is able to U-turn out for super effective damage on that Tapu Lele, or neutral damage on that Tapu Lele, thanks to the fairy typing, was switching back out for his final Pokemon, and it is Charizard.
So his own Charizard getting out for free here. That was kind of one of the struggles with the position he was in before, where really didn't want to bring Charizard out for free. We just see Solar Power, the hidden ability of the regular Charizard, allows it to deal some more damage when it's sunny, but also deal some damage to itself, which certainly only hurting it in this situation. But Celesteela also restored a lot of HP from that berry, but did not restore enough HP to survive another Flamethrower if it does the same damage it did the first time. So something to think of on Javier's side. He's still in a little danger, and wide guard would be pretty risky here.
All right, well, Javier will just go ahead and Mega Evolve his own Mega Charizard Y here. The Solar Power just taking a little bit of chip damage onto his Charizard, not getting any use out of that this game, but could be interesting for future ones. Tapu Lele's Psychic deals a lot of damage to Javier's Charizard, but does not pick up the KO. Another Flamethrower here from Federico is able to pick up the KO onto Celesteela, like you mentioned. Barry just not recovering enough health for Javier. We'll be able to set up the Tailwinds here, so matching Tailwinds as the Tailwind peters out from Federico's side. So now Javier will have the speed advantage for quite some time here on both his Landorus and his Mega Charizard.
Yeah, game's far from over. You know, if he can still fire off the right attacks, he's in good shape. It's going to be very difficult for Federico to match that Tailwind if his Charizard also knows Tailwind, just because of the amount of potential damage coming the other direction. And there'll be no wide guard to help out on Federico's side. You know, a Rock Slide now, if the Landorus on Javier's side isn't intimidated again, would pick up a knockout. Landorus in the back could switch in, try to reduce that damage, but would probably take a lot of damage in return now from that Charizard and the Landorus. So Federico kind of needs one good swing to close this game, but he might not be able to get it.
Yeah, and Landorus switching back in, not having the Intimidate anymore, does still threaten Federico's Charizard. No longer able to go for the survive on another Rock Slide, but may just miss. Instead, Federico will just go ahead and protect this turn to make sure that Charizard does not take any extra damage. Federico knows he needs to do something about this Landorus, but it's going to have to take a Rock Slide onto Tapu Lele first, and without Psychic Terrain, will be dealing much less damage. Also has to survive this Flamethrower from Javier's Charizard. Looks like Tapu Lele not able to make that happen. So Javier Valdes with this Tailwind up with both the Landorus and the Mega Charizard in pretty good position as Federico switches in his Landorus, which will open up the chance that Javier has to double target that Charizard to actually knock it out.
Yeah, definitely going to need 2 hits unless he does more damage than he did the previous time he used Rock Slide. But the tables have kind of turned a little bit. Even the Intimidate advantage will help Federico out if the 2 Landorus get caught fighting one another. Charizard just protected on Federico's side. There's still turns of Tailwind left for Javier. Pretty likely that both of his Pokemon will get to attack and deal some big damage here. It's going to be tough for Federico to turn that damage trade around because he's going to need to fire off some sort of attack while Charizard is still around to finish it off, and it'll do reduced damage to Landorus if they're just trading spread attacks back and forth.
Absolutely. This first game heading into its end game here. Looks like there will just be a protect coming out from Federico's Landorus, trying to protect that Pokemon as Javier is just going to keep firing off these rock slides. Will not hit the Landorus, but does connect with the Mega Charizard. Is going to deal a lot of damage, but just barely not enough to pick up the KO after that Intimidate. And the Flamethrower goes into Landorus's Protect. This means Federico gets a chance to fire off a boosted Heat Wave of his own. Will pick up the KO on Mega Charizard and the KO onto the Landorus with a critical hit. Federico Turano in style taking down Javier's final 2 Pokemon and taking game 1.
Oh, that was a really risky end game there. I'm not sure exactly how Federico was looking at that one, where perhaps just believing that it was not Federico, but Javier rather, perhaps just thinking that it was too. That he maybe thought he would get the knockout with Rock Slide, or that he had to get he had to just attack as hard as he could, but. Firing off the Flamethrower in the Landorus slot winds up backfiring a little bit there.
Unfortunate as the Charizard and Landorus combination on Federico's side, proving superior over Javier's in that first game. Will need to make something happen, though, in this second game to keep his tournament alive. That's Javier on the left and Federico on the right. Federico, if he wins this next match, will advance to the top 16. If he loses, Javier will have forced a Game 3 and kept his tournament hopes alive.
Be very curious to see what both players choose to bring in this game. I thought that was a really wild game 1, where either side was trying all that hard to preserve a win condition. They're kind of just attacking whenever it seemed like they had the opportunity. It was more of a turn-by-turn game than like a methodical, how can I win over a big picture sort of deal. I'm curious if either side will adjust there. Like I said, that end game was still really strange, where we saw Landorus with 1 Intimidate, Rock Slide, Charizard twice, both times failing to do 50% damage. So I'm curious if I'm missing something that he was seeing there.
It was very close. It may just be a case where Javier thinks it's a roll. It may be a roll for how these Pokemon have been trained, but missing it out in that final turn, unable to clean up and secure that win there. And Federico is very happy to take that win in game 1 and force this game 2 in a strong position. But of course, we know that Javier was in a very good position there. He can get back there again, and if he can and successfully close it out this time, we'll still be here talking about these 2 players.
Yeah, both players enjoying their time in Nashville, repping the merch, and here we go, jumping into game 2.
Kartana, Tapu Lele, the leads for Federico once again. Javier will be using the Landorus and Nihilego once again as well. So both players liking the way they started, but I expect we're going to have a very different turn 1.
Yeah, and both sides knowing some integral items here. Tapu Lele's Choice Scarf and Nihilego's Focus Ash both making themselves known in the first game. I'm curious, though, how that changes this. Do you protect Nihilego? It's still the same mind game where either side can potentially pick up a big knockout or get some great board position out of this. Also tough for both sides to switch if they're scared. It's not like you have a bunch of really defensive Pokemon in the back. Especially, Federico didn't choose to bring Snorlax or Cresselia, just going with the more offensive 4 Pokemon, so they kind of just have to go in then.
Yeah, absolutely. Both of these players making sure that they are going to not have a repeat of turn 1. Thinking this through, making sure that they have the answers. Javier will switch out his Landorus for Celesteela, so getting the Celesteela in immediately now in this game 2, while Nihilego going for the Protect. Super safe on Javier's side. No one is threatened by damage here. Celesteela will take the Psychic from Tapu Lele, but we'll be able to shrug that off easily. Federico, though, going for the Tailwind early.
Yeah, I mean, this is still a pretty good play for Federico, where he gets the Tailwind and some damage in Celesteela, but that's just the cost of the fact that Javier kind of got outled both games. Doesn't take a big risk there, and this time, it turns out, oh, you could have gotten away with it, Nihilego, but it's so tough to risk the set on that. I think that's a safer play. He gets Celesteela out against 2 Pokemon Celesteela is good against. At least now he has some chance to make a reprisal here. Both Kartana and Tapu Lele have to be a little careful about getting one shot by Celesteela.
Absolutely. We already saw the Flamethrower in game 1, but no Pokemon retreating. Federico's Pokemon feel very safe. The Psychic from Tapu Lele will activate the Focus Sash on Nihilego, and Kartana just going to go ahead and pick up the Leaf Blade on that Pokemon as well. Get the KO, increase the attack 1 stage to get back to neutral. Probably going to see basically what we saw in turn 2 of game 1, a Flamethrower coming out onto Kartana, Will it be enough to pick up a KO? It is enough to pick up a KO with a critical hit, but Kartana shows off its focus sash here. So Federico definitely feeling safe to keep Kartana in there at full hit points.
Yeah, it makes it easy where there's no threat of Kartana being knocked out in that scenario. And, Javier getting Landorus out here will help a little bit with stalling out this Tailwind. Also helps negate the effect of that Beast Boost, but starting to fall behind pretty aggressively here. And he also created a problem for himself later where, once again, that Nihilego could be a really great check to Charizard, except it keeps fainting before Charizard even comes out.
Yeah, and unfortunately with Celesteela alongside the Nihilego, not really much in the way of safe switch-ins for a Psychic and a Leaf Blade on Javier's side. So can't really blame him for that. There just weren't many options for him against this combination of Tapu Lele and Kartana, which is why Federico keeps leading it.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a team full of Pokemon that are really tough to switch into battle. So, if you don't lead effectively against it, there's just not a whole lot of ways for him to outmaneuver and recover.
All right, well, he's going to have to figure out a way. Federico switches out Tapu Lele for Landorus, gets the Intimidate off onto Javier's Landorus, which will be important at reducing the amount of chip damage for Federico's Charizard should it be in the back. Kartana just trying to get some more damage off before it goes out. A critical hit with that Sacred Sword. Deals a lot of damage to Celesteela and procs the Berry. So Celesteela now does not have the Figgy Berry and currently does not have a Beast Boost and will not get a Beast Boost this turn because Landorus is going to U-turn into the Kartana and switch out. That means bad things for Javier if there is that Charizard in the back.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting critical hit, too. The Figgy Berry activating puts Celesteela at just about the point where it would have I'll let this stat go first, I guess. Heavy Slam going down on Landorus. Not going to be a knockout by any means, but does get that nice chip damage. What it's going to say there, though, is that health that Celesteela gets healed to, it's like right on the edge now of being able to survive an attack from Charizard. Certainly going to change the way Federico has to play things, where if there isn't a critical hit, it takes a little less damage. Heat Wave would have been plenty. So that critical hit actually kind of helping Javier.
Yeah, well, Javier will be able to heal up that Celesteela in a good position. We know it has Wide Guard, so Federico has to feel a little bit scared of just clicking that Rock Slide button again, although Charizard has shown Flamethrower as an option. Really interesting choice with the Wide Guard. It just sort of makes these turns way more difficult, because if you were Federico and there weren't Wide Guard on the table, you'd do just like game one, just click the Heat Wave and the Rock Slide button and win.
Yeah, for now, Charizard is almost safe, where it's probably too dangerous to use Rock Slide, but I guess, up a game, you can go for it. If you happen to guess right and there's no Wide Guard, you probably win the game right here.
Yeah, and I mean, Federico was able to end up with blowing both the Heat Wave and the Rock Slide into a Wide Guard in game one and still managed to take that W. You can see the one next to his name. Looks like Federico's just going to go ahead and protect this turn, not Mega Evolving just yet. Celesteela does go for the Wide Guard on Javier's side, so protecting the Charizard from Rock Slide. Federico went for it, wanted to try and get some, see if Javier would over-predict that, and sets up his own Tailwind with the Mega Charizard now.
Yeah, it's a nice play there. Getting the speed advantage is really important in this matchup, both because of the Landorus and because, these Pokemon on both sides are relatively frail other than Celesteela, so, taking that first hit is important because, you may not have to take a counter punch. That one hit may be enough.
Yeah, and really interesting, Federico has decided not to Mega Evolve his Charizard just yet.
Yeah, notably having the Blaze ability, not taking the damage the way Javier did. A little surprised to see Solar Power. Blaze is what we normally see, even though it doesn't matter. Doing nothing is helpful here.
Doing nothing is better than actively hurting yourself. But Javier's Landorus switching in to get the Intimidate off onto Federico's Landorus. Will also be threatening with Rock Slides potentially of its own against Federico that does not have access to a Wide Guard. Federico now will go ahead and Mega Evolve his Charizard into Mega Charizard Y to get that offensive pressure on the field, the ability to start dishing out the damage. Javier with the Sun Boost will fire off a Flamethrower into Federico's Landorus, does pick up a KO there. So Javier now starting to, with that new Tailwind, able to start making additional plays here, but Federico showing he has 2 Tailwind Pokemon on his field.
Yeah, I guess if you're going to play this fast and loose, having Tailwind to make sure your team is going first is really important.
Yeah, absolutely, and Federico is assuring that he will be going first with both this Choice Scarf, Tapu Lele, and Tailwind. setting the psychic terrain now, will be able to power up Tapu Lele and threaten both of these Pokemon as the fastest thing on the field.
You're getting a little bit of speed control with the speed control using that Choice Scarf, but with both these Pokemon at full health, it's going to be tricky. There's no way he's going to be able to knock out both of these Pokemon in one turn, barring something completely ridiculous. So he's going to have to be careful. Landorus could do a bunch of damage back with a Rock-type attack on Charizard. Both of them using a spread move could be devastating to both of these Pokemon. Pretty precarious position. Don't want to get caught with Tapu Lele dueling Celesteela.
Yeah, absolutely. Landorus and Charizard, one of them, Charizard is taking this Psychic from Tapu Lele. So much damage, not enough. Rock Slide coming out, though, from Javier's Landorus. Connects with the Mega Charizard on Federico's side, and Tapu Lele deals a lot of damage, but doesn't pick up the KO. Federico will be taking a Flamethrower from the Mega Charizard on Javier's side. It is enough to pick up the KO here. So Javier taking that KO while Federico fires back with a Flamethrower of his own into the Landorus. Going to deal a lot of damage, but not pick up the KO there. So Javier in strong position here, forcing game 3.
Yeah, I mean, barring something outrageous, he's got it. A really well-played game this time. Makes great use of that wide guard, doesn't take the unnecessary damage early in the game, and able to fight his way back in this close game to tilt it just a little bit in his favor instead of just a little bit away.
Absolutely, and it's those tiny little things that make the biggest difference when you're at a stage like this, when you are in the play-in for the top 16 bracket, the elimination stage of the World Championships. Federico just going to protect to buy himself some time here. Think a little bit more about game 3 and the tailwind dropping.
I was going to say, with the tailwind dropping, this is actually still...
and the heat wave.
Yeah, the result is a little bit in doubt. A spread move could still flip this one.
All right, well, Federico stalling out that tailwind. Javier will protect Landorus this turn. Going to make sure that Landorus is safe. Actually protecting both Pokemon, both the Landorus and the Charizard. Federico's Charizard uses the Heat Wave, maybe trying to stall out the Sun here for Celesteela. Does end this turn.
And now the tailwind is over. The tailwind now, evening things out. I guess that would have been the one way to lose this one. If you, I guess you can miss a bunch of attacks or fail to take that tailwind in mind. Javier stalling this out to even the board back up. And yeah, you're right. Without the Sun active, it's going to be even more difficult here because Celesteela is going to be able to survive a single attack from the Charizard should it need to.
Landorus' Rock Slide will prove that Celesteela gets to sit and relax as it heads into game 3. That super effective Rock Slide picking up that KO here. And I think we've basically only had 3-game matches so far today. Really exciting tournament from that front, and here we go into the most high-pressure situation. Game 3 of an elimination match. And not just any elimination match, an elimination match that if you win, you get to make it into the top 16 bracket, and if you lose, you're 17th. Yeah. It's still top cut, but it's not quite the same as making it into the top 16.
I mean, it all makes sense, right? With the tournament that has played the way it has so far, why wouldn't the first match of the top cut go to a third game like this? Unfortunately, I don't know how many key learnings either side really has from the first 2 games. It's pretty clear the Ultra Beasts in particular have some important potential roles countering key Pokemon on each other's teams, but these guys are kind of just going in from the first turn, hitting as hard as they can, trying to keep Tailwind's advantage when they can, but not, there's very little maneuvering, right? It just, I have an advantage, I click the attack buttons, I hope good things happen.
The only real information that may have been revealed was the second Tailwind on Federico's side, so Javier has to know that there is not just a Tailwind on Kartana, has to be prepared to keep his own Tailwind up and try to stall out multiple rounds of that attack.
Yeah, that was crucial there where, with these longer games, getting the second Tailwind is a big deal. But still, it's just such a strange matchup where, I don't know if it's maybe just a regional difference where, these players, both from Latin America, kind of playing at quicker pace than maybe we've seen from some of the players from Europe or Japan. The Charizard teams also kind of play themselves to this, right? Where Charizard's resistances can be kind of hard to use, but when you have the Drought active, the damage it dishes out is just ridiculous. So both sides playing quick. I wouldn't be shocked if this is another tight one, but maybe only lasts 5 or 6 turns.
Yeah, I mean, you have to wonder if, maybe Javier just brings in the Celesteela early, leads with that Pokemon, as Federico has shown a tendency to lean on the Tapu Lele Kartana leads there. And if you can't find a way to switch it in, why not just have it there to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, there's other leads that he could use to counter it. But yeah, I mean, if you're trying to pivot to Landorus Celesteela anyway, do you consider just leading with it instead of having to spend resources getting in that position?
All right, well, we'll have to see if these players are going to make any adaptations here. Both players clearly feeling like the Pokemon that they were choosing were the right Pokemon. And of course, in this situation, it's just a question of how you are playing at a given moment underneath these bright lights and with all the stress of your tournament life on the line these next few turns. Here we go, game 3 of our play-in match, Federico Turano versus Javier Valdes. Winner advances to the top 16 bracket. The loser ends their tournament.
So off camera, I'd like to see the two players shaking their hands before this game. I just feel like this is a fun one that way, right? Whereas it's an honorable duel, just two strong trainers going in with their offense as aggressively as they can.
All right, well, Javier is making adjustments, bringing Celesteela and Charizard, but Federico also making adjustments, going for the Trick Room mode here, Snorlax and Cresselia.
Yeah, now for something completely different. It's a nice lead change kind of for both sides. Snorlax definitely not feeling super threatened in an immediate standpoint here, but sort of going to have a hard time setting up on these Pokemon. Charizard capable of dishing out huge damage to almost anything, and Celesteela one of the few Pokemon that can take a single attack from Snorlax.
Yep, well, Charizard will go ahead and Mega Evolve to get the sun out on the field and start boosting its power here, drought setting the harsh sunlight. Celesteela, of course, usually loves being up against the Snorlax because it may be able to just go ahead and get some Leech Seeds off. Snorlax, though, just going to take damage from the Flamethrower. Activates the Berry, actually. Deals more than 50% hit points, making sure that Snorlax will, if it decides to Belly Drum, will not be able to heal up with that Berry. Celesteela will go ahead and Leech Seed the Cresselia while Snorlax sets up Belly Drum.
Yeah, well, as we learned at the North American International Championships, always Leech Seed.
Always Leech Seed. And also Trick Room.
Yeah, so Federico gets what he wants, sort of. You know, he gets that Belly Drum set up, he gets Trick Room. Snorlax will now be the quickest Pokemon in the field, but at a pretty serious cost. You know, Charizard dishes out a lot of damage. Snorlax down to half its health now, and sort of a precarious position. Snorlax could just start targeting that Charizard slot, knowing that Celesteela probably can't knock it out from here, but probably doesn't want to be hit with a Leech Seed. Even if it has Recycle, it's a lot of health going back to Celesteela.
Yeah, and if not Celesteela, any Pokemon that switches into Celesteela's slot.
Yeah, Snorlax is high HP. A little unfortunate with Leechy because it causes your opponent to draw more HP to it. Although, you know, when Snorlax is knocking out Pokemon in one hit, typically, it makes a little less of a difference.
Well, Federico retreats his own Cresselia to eliminate the Leech Seed on that Pokemon. Brings out Charizard of his own. Javier is fine with the Pokemon that he has right now, protects Charizard from that return, while Celesteela will set up the Leech Seed onto Snorlax. And not only will this mean that Celesteela will be healing off of Snorlax, but crucially setting that timer to where Snorlax has to take a turn to recycle that berry to heal up, which could allow for some space for Javier to maneuver.
Yeah, he's already in a pretty good spot. Would have been a little silly to leave that Charizard exposed, but Federico said you kind of have to go for it. The Leech Seed wearing Snorlax down enough that even a single attack from Celesteela now is kind of a problem. However, it's a good switch to get Charizard in there because I tell you what, Celesteela is no longer free. If Celesteela hits Snorlax, it's probably going to be knocked out by Charizard while Snorlax knocks out the other Pokemon on Javier's side of the field. So he can maybe get Snorlax here, but he's going to give up 2 Pokemon to do it most likely. All
right, and Javier is going with the sort of unenviable task of dropping the Belly Drum Snorlax's health with attack with that Intimidate. You know, it's usually very good against physical attackers, but once a Belly Drum is up and you've maximized your attack, it's going to take a lot of switches to get that back under control. Charizard goes ahead and Mega Evolves as well, while Snorlax's return does knock out the Landorus, which means that there is going to be no chance of Javier being able to continue to drop that attack stat from Snorlax. Deals some pretty good damage with the Flamethrower onto Snorlax, but not going to be enough to pick up the KO with Leech Seed. And actually a one-hit KO from Federico's Charizard into that Celesteela.
Yeah, no special defense beast boost this time, so Celesteela going on pretty cleanly, and one of the downfalls of that is since there's no Pokemon left in that slot, Snorlax's Leech Seed doesn't tick that turn.
All right, Javier does have to bring out his Charizard again. Really needs to have that Rhydon in the back. It's not, it's the Nihilego. And that means that Federico's Snorlax is going to have a field day with these Pokemon. You know, the one benefit is that Javier's Nihilego, we did see, has that Focus Sash. So we'll be able to survive one attack. but
I think he's too far behind for the Focus Sash to really help him, though. I think on Javier's side, you have to pick which Pokemon Snorlax is going to attack, protect the other, and take a knockout here. It's just too far behind to allow the Focus Sash to trade. Also, if it has Recycle, it could go for that here, in which case you really have to attack with both Pokemon. Super important for Javier to predict this correctly.
Nihilego went for the Protect. Javier did not predict it correctly at all. Charizard takes the return from that Snorlax, knocks out the Charizard, while Federico going for the Flamethrower onto Nihilego. And that is a lonely jellyfish. Gonna have to go swim on back as Javier's tournament is going to end here with Federico Turano taking this in 3 games and advancing into the top 16.
Yeah, really great game. Kind of completely throws a curveball by leading an entirely different strategy. Looks like it caught Javier completely off guard, and he's played an excellent tournament, but looks like it's too little too late now.
All right, well, there is the Focus Sash activating on Javier's side. Snorlax taking it down there with the return. Federico just making sure that there is no chance that he is going to lose this set by setting up the Tailwind. Nihilego, difficult opponent, and fire off a Power Gym, which does pick up a one-hit KO on Charizard, which is good to know. Which would be good to know, and probably helped out Javier in his previous matches. But unfortunately, it's just not going to be enough, as we either have the Cresselia coming in or whatever Federico's 4th Pokemon is.
Yeah, almost no matter what it is, with the help of that Tailwind, should be pretty easy to clean this one up. Landorus coming in, able to do quite a ridiculous amount of damage to Nihilego, kind of just add insult to injury here. But a really well-played match by both sides. It's tough to stay on top of a match like this one where things are as fast-paced as they are. Both of them were very close. Either of them could easily have won this series. And congratulations to Federico for moving on to the round of 16.
Absolutely. Federico Turano will be representing Latin America and Argentina in the top 16 as he takes this win over Javier. It's no surprise here. Federico has been, a top player from the region for some time now. He always seems to show up on those top leaderboards as Javier just goes ahead and forfeits that match out there. And there is our final member of the top 16 standing up out of his chair, Federico Turano.